Life Between Lives can sound like a very spiritually orientated therapy, and it can be. And yet the indicators for LBL don't have to be very spiritually orientated presenting issues. They can be ordinary themes that you deal with in any other therapeutic context. Many relationship, health, personal or professional issues are actually at their core spiritual issues, in the sense that they can be like metaphors or parables that are helping us learn spiritual lessons. So the question, why do Life Between Lives therapy? Well, it's going to be dictated to a degree by your client. One of the main reasons is because your client requests it from you, and the reasons they may do this can vary somewhere on a spectrum from they may just be curious about Life Between Lives therapy and interested in the spiritual dimension, or they may have a compelling need, a pain, a feeling of suffering, a feeling of a lack of wholeness. It's something that they must do in order to feel better. They may quite desperately require a spiritual solution to the issues that they're facing in the present life. So I find there are 4 key reasons why people will come for a Life Between Lives session. Firstly, you can be doing some sort of other session, often past life regression, but you may find that you glimpse or enter for 5 or 10 minutes a realm that appears to not relate to a physical dimension or existence in a past life, indicates that your client is wanting to move forward or through into that spiritual world. Essentially, they sort of have a partial Life Between Lives session during another session. The door is opened a little bit, so you can take a note of it and go back and enter that door fully the next time in a full, focused Life Between Lives session that you can do later on. Now, another time you're doing past life regression therapy and LBL starts to become appropriate, you start to feel that you've gathered a lot of complex information across many lives. Past lives can be very complex, can be difficult for the client to really understand what it all means. And as a therapist, you are able to often help make sense of it, but sometimes there are just missing pieces of the puzzle. If you haven't quite come to a conclusion, you feel there's something missing, a Life Between Lives session at the end of that series of past life regression sessions can be the thing that brings the whole therapeutic process to a conclusion. Thirdly, sometimes clients will come to you with a really strong sense that I just need to do LBL. I can't consciously explain why. I've just got this really strong gut feeling. And oftentimes, even if you look at the indicators, what's happening in their life, what are their issues, what's going on, you may think, well, this could really be an issue for hypnotherapy or NLP or past lives, but your client may have a really strong sense within themselves that that's what they need, and when they have this, they tend to be right. Now, fourthly, you can have clients who are sort of like, well, I've heard about LBL and it sounds interesting, and I know maybe we could give it a try. I mean, can't do any harm. That kind of curiosity, or not really having a strong, compelling reason and not having a strong pain to resolve, that kind of thing is the least compelling reason. So in that case, I might then try and talk the client out of it. I may then stimulate in them a sort of a fight back where they say, well, look, I do have a strong sense that it's really useful. Now they've moved back into the third step of having a strong sense. So the prerequisites for an LBL session, this is from the client's point of view and the therapist. For the clients, I find it's really useful for them to have had already hypnotherapy and or past life regression therapy with you. For a number of reasons I've touched on. You've already given them the hypnosis pre-talk and post-talk. You've already learned about their present life and their past lives. Now you can go to the Life Between Lives to review it. I much prefer that they've done past life regression themselves with somebody else at least. Maybe it was some time ago, but they should be able to give you a briefing and tell you the details of the characters, events, themes, and spiritual lessons from their past lives. If they can't, and they don't know anything about their past lives, and they don't really have any key issues in this life, going to a Life Between Lives is kind of like a talent show where all you do is watch the judges. You don't watch the performances at all. So Life Between Lives is like a commentary of the performance. The performance that we have in our life is how well did you do when you met your soulmate to learn that spiritual lesson. If all we hear is the commentary, now the commentators, the judges may be able to explain a little bit about what happened, but it's better to have a pretty detailed understanding of what the performance was, what the lives that we lived were. Now, the prerequisite for therapists, obviously, therapists should be able to do hypnosis. They should be very good at hypnotherapy with age regression, and they should be competent and experienced past life regression therapists.